What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to EP09. Alright, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome back to EP09 Bodybuilding. We're going to wrap up the 2025 Tsunami France Pro, the very first show for competitors to try and earn their qualification for the 2026 Mr. Olympia. Now, we have reactions from James Hollingshead post-show, Stephane Matala. We have reactions from Quint Beastwood, you guys. And, you know, this was a show that I think had some expected results when it came to some of the competitors, but definitely some results that we were not expecting going into the show. And we're going to get into some of that. But first off, let's congratulate the winner of this show, Sergey Danilov, taking home the first Olympia qualification for 2026. And this is a guy that nobody saw coming. I think Daniel over at Bodybuilders Without Borders did give some fair warning on his page that Danilov was on his way. And when I was actually doing the live stream, thank you everyone that tuned into my live stream. That was an excellent show. I really enjoyed everybody being there, being able to talk with you guys during the stream. But when it came to Sergey and we were going through the competitors before prejudging, this guy definitely was turning some heads. I think that people were really recognizing that he was going to show up and do fairly well. Now, at the time, I initially said that I thought he would be top 6. And he certainly was. But I was not expecting him to win the show. And there's a lot of reasons for that we're going to get into. But look, he deserved to win this show. Sergey was the best bodybuilder on that day. He had the mass, he had the conditioning, he had the separation. Look, he didn't have the flow or the shape of Quint Beastwood, okay? But he definitely deserved to win this show. And I actually did look at the scorecard as well. This guy won with straight firsts on the judges' scorecards, okay? So that's really saying something. Definitively taking home the win. Quint Beastwood very definitively in second with straight seconds. But congratulations to the champ. He will be going to the 2026 Mr. Olympia as the first qualified athlete. He's got a whole year to prep. We'll see how he does. So we're going to start from 6th place and work our way up. And James Hollingshead filling that 6th place position, coming in at 265 pounds on stage in France. Chris Tuttle actually said that he thinks that James should be up another 5 pounds. Funny, Chris actually says that James could actually sacrifice a little bit of conditioning in order to come in a little bit fuller, and he thinks that that will increase the look for James. Now, James did look like he was a bit downsized from the last time we saw him on stage, but there is no denying that this guy was absolutely sliced and diced. You could see the conditioning through the back. Like I said before in previous videos, the conditioning did translate over to the stage when it came to the striations, even in the traps, you guys. I mean, look, this is something that you do not see very often. James had, I think, some of the most detail in the back in the entire show, but he certainly did not get the placing that he was hoping for. His first show with Chris Tuttle, and there's definitely some work to do here. And James isn't oblivious to that. You know, James knows that he has some work to do. James took to his social media the day after the show and gave his insight on how he thought the show went, what his plans are for the future. You guys got to check this out, especially with all the conversation happening now that James should retire. I'm starting to see some of that out there. Look, we'll hear what James had to say, and then I'll give you guys my comment on that.
Didn't win. Nowhere near winning. Rightly so. There were some great athletes on the day. People who've done their homework. Now, a lot went right. A lot of positive things. We have had an exceptional time rolling into this show and figuring out how things work with me and with Chris. And it was really fun. And I'm very grateful. I'm very much looking forward to the next one. So, how was the show? Exceptionally well run. Pretty easy. Pretty calm. I think they did a good job.
Actually, I do want to say one thing about how the show was run. I disagree with James on this one, okay? The show was not very well run. I mean, did you guys see the Classic Physique division? Look, when they were doing the awards for Classic, if you guys missed it, they actually had the top 10 come out. They did the awards for top 5. Then they did a pose down with the top 10, with the top 5 wearing their medals, okay? Then they took the top 5, put them back in line for the pictures, and kept the winner there for pictures as well. You guys, the way that this show was run was a mess. But look, we're going to get into that more on the bodybuilding breakdown. Let's just stick with this for now.
So, lots of work to do on my front. I know my weaknesses. They're very apparent. I don't have to be reminded. But we work and we try to improve what we can in the time frames we have. We all want to win, of course we do. But you can't win everything, and I've lost many times before. I'll lose many times again. But we keep working, and so every now and then we get a victory, and it makes it all the more sweet, whether it's in life or in bodybuilding. So, more work to do.
And this is the thing about James. He knows what he has to do. He already has a plan in place in order for him to continue to get better, and his coach is on board with it. First show with his coach, Chris Tuttle, like I said, they showed up absolutely shredded. There was very positive things to take away from James competing at this show. Was it the place that he wanted? No. Was it the placing that we were all expecting from James? Most certainly not. I think most of us had James within the top 3. Many people had James battling it out with Quint Beastwood for the top 2. But as for the conversation as to whether or not James should retire, I could not disagree with that comment more. I actually saw John Livia over at Serious and Silliness said that James should retire. John, we talk about this sometimes when it comes to guys that are good for bodybuilding, okay? And I'm not just addressing John. This is to everybody out there that says that James should retire. Me and John are friends. We go back and forth. But the fact of the matter is, James is good for bodybuilding, okay? This guy has been to the Olympia twice. A lot of people may forget. And he has shown up much better than this. In bodybuilding, you're only as good as your last showing. I definitely agree with that, okay, to a certain extent. But James can be better than what we've seen here. And he did have, like I said, positive points to showing up at this show. He was diced, absolutely shredded. And that's something that was lacking in this show from other competitors. So can James be better? I think he can be better. Should James retire? I absolutely do not think that James should retire. He loves bodybuilding as well. And that's the other thing. The guy just loves to compete. Okay? He just loves to compete. He loves to train. He loves the lifestyle. He loves to gain the knowledge of bodybuilding, which is why he's working with Chris Tuttle. It's like his 5th or 6th coach, you know? He wants to gain the knowledge. Now, part of it is because James maybe can't get past himself sometimes when it comes to making decisions and giving somebody else the reins. We know that we've heard him comment on that in the past, but regardless, I think he is finding his way further in the sport of bodybuilding when it comes to his progression as an athlete, as a person. James is good for bodybuilding. James should not retire, and I do think that James can be better than what we saw here. So 6th place for James Hollingshead. He's going to be competing at the UK show. We'll see how he shows up there, and hopefully that extra 5 pounds of fullness that they're hoping to gain at the UK show does translate over to a significantly improved physique on stage. Stephane Matala, you guys, with a huge crowd reaction. Just listen to the crowd. This guy got serious rock star treatment at this show. From the second that he stepped out on that stage, the crowd was cheering his name. This was his hometown crowd. You couldn't ask for a better show. And Stephane actually did have some words. I'm going to show you guys that here in a few. Unbelievable showing for Stephane Matala when it comes to the crowd reaction. You couldn't ask for better. And with a solid 5th place finish at his first open show, his open debut, I actually think that Stephane showed up pretty much exactly the way I expected him to. He wasn't necessarily big enough to compete with the open guys yet, but he did hold his own when it came to shape, when it came to conditioning, and he did show us that he definitely does have potential when it comes to the open division. He just needs to be bigger. There's no question that Stephane Matala needs to put on more muscle in order to stand with some of these mass monsters of the sport. I mean, look, the guy had to stand next to a guy like Hassan Mostafa. I mean, that is very, very difficult for anybody to do, to try to match up when it comes to size. But shape, aesthetics, flow, he still had those chest striations. You know, we definitely have to give him that. I think this was a very good open debut for Stephane Matala. And I think that it's an unfair expectation to think that a classic competitor, which essentially does have a huge following in the sport and does show a lot of promise, you know, is going to come in and just dominate right away. They all can't be Urs Kalaczynski, okay? It's not going to happen. So I like this version of Stephane Matala coming into the Open. He does have some more work to do, but I do think that he was missing just a little bit of that polish that he would have had still working with Patrick Tor. Him and Patrick Tor splitting only days before stepping on stage. He did maintain that conditioning, but I think with Patrick Tor, maybe he just would have had that little bit more polish, just been a little bit more sharp. But all things considered, I'm assuming that he went back to his coach and longtime friend, Hassan NFC. I think that they did a pretty good job here. Now, as well as the crowd reaction, look, here's the other thing, you guys. How often does somebody that takes home 5th place get up and actually speak to the crowd afterwards, okay? Like, this was actually pretty cool. I really like this. I did translate what Stephane had to say into English, and part of the translation read here, in 2017, when we started bodybuilding, never in my life would I have thought I'd unite people, be loved so much, and see passionate people like you. Thank you very much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight. Stephane also dedicated this performance to his late grandfather. So look, this was an emotional night for this young guy. I do think that he has a very bright future in the Open, and I think when he does put on that size, that he will be a contender when it comes to some of these shows and actually taking home an Olympia qualification, okay? Without a doubt, this guy has really, really crazy shape and definitely has the potential to gain that size as long as he maintains that midsection, which I think that he will, and come in and eventually be a pro show winner. But one thing that I was not expecting was the announcement from Stephane Matala that he will be competing again in just 4 weeks. And what show do we have in just 4 weeks, ladies and gentlemen? The EVLS Prague Pro. Stephane Matala planning on stepping back on stage much sooner than I expected. We will see him standing next to guys like Michael Krizo, like Keon Pearson. Very, very unexpected on my part. I figured he would have taken the time to take a longer off season, put on that size, maybe come back in 2026 when it comes to, I don't know, Q2 of the season, something like that. But clearly, Stephane with other plans. I don't really know what he can do to be better for the EVLS Prague Pro. I mean, he could be a little bit more separated when it comes to the quads, but I don't know. Overall, he just needs that muscle mass. I think that he should probably just skip this show and continue on to put on that size, really make an impact next time he takes the stage. But we'll see what happens when it comes to him standing next to someone like Keon Pearson. Because look, Keon, he might actually match up with when it comes to size. And we know that he has the aesthetics to stand next to a guy like Keon. Well, sort of. Nobody really has the aesthetics to stand next to a guy like Keon necessarily. But at the end of the day, I think it'll be a good matchup. We'll see how Stephane does. And again, congratulations to Stephane Matala on 5th place in his pro debut. Now, continuing on to Hassan Mostafa, taking 4th place at this show. Look, this was the biggest guy on stage. Hassan is always the biggest guy on stage. Nobody carries more muscle than this guy. Nobody is going to be able to stand next to him when it comes to poses like the side chest, when it comes to the back double. And look, he did have actually a fair bit of detail in that back double. I was quite impressed with this shot in particular in the upper body. You can see the separation, you can see the density. These are the things that we want to see from Hassan Mostafa. Now, there were obviously some mistakes that were made from Hassan as well. One, with the peak, we did not see that separation when it came to the quads from the front. The midsection, unfortunately, again, a problem for Hassan. That side leg needed more detail as well. But the problems for Hassan Mostafa actually started when he decided to put on an extra 20 pounds, okay? From the last time he competed to now, up 20 pounds. I don't know if that's stage weight necessarily, but that's exactly what he said during an interview with Ron Harris over on Ron Harris Muscle. You guys should all go subscribe to that as well. But the fact of the matter is, Hassan Mostafa did not need another 20 pounds of muscle. This guy actually needed to drop 20 pounds of body weight. You know, he didn't need to go up. He's already the biggest guy on stage every single time. And I think it affected his midsection. Putting on an extra 20 pounds did not help Hassan Mostafa work on his weak points. They are still very apparent, although I do think that he had decent conditioning for what we usually see from Hassan. He definitely still has a lot of work to do. So honestly, I think that he needs to drop that weight that he did gain. Now, I did hear that his wife made some comments about how, you know, it's not Hassan's fault that he just keeps growing, and I haven't confirmed that myself, you guys. But look, not that I'm a professional bodybuilder by any stretch of the imagination, but I certainly understand that caloric deficit equals weight loss. So there must be something happening there. I have no idea what Hassan has been doing or not doing, but clearly something needs to be done further for this guy to just buckle down, suffer, lose that weight, finally come in streamlined, you know, as streamlined as he could possibly be, and he could make his way back to the Olympia. I absolutely think that this guy could make his way back to the Olympia. He shows up every time, the biggest guy on stage. The muscle mass cannot be denied. He just needs the refinement. Start working on your weak points, and that is your path back to the Olympia. But when it comes to fourth place here, like I said, untouchable in certain shots. That side chest, I mean, to me, that was his all day. Back double, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I love the freak factor. I love the freaks in particular when it comes to bodybuilding, me personally as a fan. But he's just got some work to do. So Hassan Mostafa taking fourth place at the France Pro. We'll see what he plans on doing next. Hopefully, he comes back next time much lighter than what he is here, and we will see him back in that winner's circle and make his way back to the Olympia.
Yes, here in Lille, France, and we about to have some McDonald's. So listen, guys, your mind is everything. You know what I mean? Glass is half full, it's not half empty. We're going to be better, so we're going to be back. But first, I'm gonna give me a Big Mac.
So after 6 solid months of dieting, the first place that Quint Beastwood wants to go is McDonald's? Guy must love his Big Macs. But this is your second place finisher at the Tsunami France Pro. Quint Beastwood taking his 4th second place finish of the 2025 season, taking 3rd place at one show as well. This was a season of lessons learned for Quint Beastwood. I think that he learned a lot about what he is capable of as a competitor when it comes to continuously stepping on stage and how far he can really push himself in order to really stay locked in as a bodybuilder. He speaks all the time about how he just loves bodybuilding, loves the bodybuilding lifestyle. Well, he was able to live it to its absolute fullest during this 2025 season, without question. Quint Beastwood actually getting his own standing ovation in France himself when he was on his way out of the venue. People standing and cheering him on. Look, this is what it's all about when it comes to bodybuilding, you guys. You know, for a competitor, I don't think it gets any better than this. And very well deserved. You know, he had a long season. He had some great showings. And he came back after that 2024 essentially disaster of a season, continued to push on, and is really showing us that he does have the potential to be one of these top guys in the sport. You know, he has some work to do, and we'll talk about that. But he definitely does have the potential, I feel, to really push himself to be one of the best out there. Our current Mr. Olympia, Samson Dauda, has all the faith in the world when it comes to Quint Beastwood. But he definitely has some work to do. Quint Beastwood at this point just needs to put on the size in the right places. He needs more size when it comes to the quads. He needs more quad sweep. He needs bigger arms. He needs bigger, almost everything. You know, better detail from the back would be an improvement for him as well. All things that I think that he is capable of. And before he started competing in 2025, I was not nearly as optimistic that he would be able to do that. Once I started seeing him compete, I saw what he looked like on stage. I think that he does have the potential to really put on that size and, like I said, become one of the top guys in the sport. Now, I'm not saying that he's going to win the Mr. Olympia someday, don't get me wrong, but do I think that he has the potential to make it to the Olympia stage and do very well, you know, top 10, top 8? Yeah, I think that that is well within his grasp. And when it comes to being a professional bodybuilder, those are huge accolades, okay? Not everybody is going to be in the top 6, not everybody's going to be in the top 3, and I don't know if he can get there someday. But what I do know is he definitely can get himself to a very high placing on that Olympia stage, and I do think that he can be better than what we have seen here in the 2025 season. Fantastic season for Quint Beastwood. I want to wish him congratulations when it comes to everything that he has accomplished this year, because look, Not many guys go out and do these many shows. And like I said earlier, I don't know of anybody that has actually finished second place 4 times in one season. 4 times, you guys.
Of course, I'm disappointed about, not reaching my goal. And of course, every time it doesn't happen, of course I'm disappointed. But I just don't focus on disappointment. I focus on trying to be better and, just accepting and embracing the experience that I'm experiencing, and honestly, I've met some amazing people coming to Europe. So I'm so grateful.
Very positive guy, very positive attitude that he's putting out there for the fans. I actually think that he was a lot more pissed when he was announced second than what he's letting on to. And look, that would be completely understandable for a guy in his situation. I mean, that early qualification, that would have been everything that he needed. Now, at this point, he's definitely going to take the time off, okay? We're not going to see him compete again this season. I will be shocked, and I think it would be the wrong decision, but I don't think it's going to happen. But when it comes to this show, this was not a robbery for Quint Beastwood, okay? Sergey Danilov, I think, was the clear winner here, but it was definitely the biggest upset of the 2025 season, without question. And there's a difference between a robbery and an upset. Everybody expected Quint Beastwood to win. Nobody saw Sergey Danilov coming. That's the upset. But look, like I said, congratulations again to Quint Beastwood on a very successful season. The future is definitely bright for this competitor. But look, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys thought of the France Pro. We will be getting into this more when it comes to the bodybuilding breakdown. Stay tuned for that. But look, I'm going to wrap up the video right here. Check out BayouMuscle.com. Use code EP10 at checkout. Appreciate everyone supporting the channel this far. We are only 2 weeks away from the 2025 Mr. Olympia. You guys, so many more conversations to be had. We'll get into it in a later video, but that's it for me in this one. Thank you guys for tuning into EP09. Like and subscribe.